With the recent rise of handheld gaming and the market being flooded with a lot of different options, it raises some questions. Which device should you spend your money on? Is the setup worth the time? Especially since you likely have a console at home that you can just sit down and play. Today I want to compare two different handhelds with drastically different price points. The Anbernic RG40XXV and the Ayaneo Pocket DMG. Let's start off with the more affordable option, the Anbernic RG40XXV. This device is available through Anbernic directly, LinnXT, Amazon, and other retailers, making it fairly accessible. Price may vary depending on which retailer you go with and where you are located. At time of filming, for what I've seen, prices go between $80 to $90 plus shipping. Shipping time may vary depending on who you order through, with some companies shipping from the US and other ones shipping overseas. Something to take in consideration is depending on the retailer you choose, it might come with some accessories and some extras. For example, LinnXT in some cases can include up to 2 SD cards, a curated games list, and a charging cable. Amazon has similar options, and the Anbernic website has a pretty big variety of options. Depending on which one you choose, sometimes they come with subpar SD cards that can die eventually, and the ROMs might not be the best, so it might be something to explore. Our pricier option, the Ayaneo Pocket DMG, you can get from Ayaneo's website directly. It's not as readily available as the RG40XXV, however, Ayaneo offers several RAM and storage configurations. At the time of filming, the base model costs $419, with the price swelling up to $579, depending on which model you choose. It's available in black and white, and some of the other colors are a little bit pricier, and it comes with a charging cable and replacement shoulders. Shipping is about $35 through DHL, and your device will come from their Chinese warehouse. This definitely impacts shipping time, more on that later. Other than price, some of the biggest differences between them are the operating system and the processor. The Anbernic RG40XXV has a Linux-based operating system with an H700 quad-core. Ayaneo is an Android-based system with a Snapdragon G3X Gen 2. Being that the Snapdragon processor is more powerful than the H700 CPU, the Ayaneo will be able to run more systems smoothly, giving it the leg up on the RG40XXV.
Okay.
Both devices can run retro emulators with really no problem. The Anbernic can run PS1, PSP, and some N64. The Ayaneo can support more modern consoles like PS2, GameCube, and really up to Switch, which is pretty impressive, but the aspect ratio for newer consoles are about a 16:9, and the Ayaneo is more of a square display, so you'd be losing a lot of real estate by playing those type of games. Both operating systems are functionally fine, but I would suggest exploring different operating systems just so you can elevate each one of those devices a little bit more. The RG40XXV is a Linux-based system, which requires very little to no setup, and in some cases it can come preloaded with games. Now, they might not be the best ROMs, but it's really a good option when you just want to turn it on and play. Where the Ayaneo is an Android-based system, and if you've ever set up an Android-based device, it shouldn't be that hard to get that set up. Now, just like I mentioned before, exploring those different front ends is a good option to elevate the system, but with Android and Ayaneo, sometimes you have to take some time and explore what options are available. You have to download and set up each individual emulator to make sure that everything is running correctly. And honestly, a lot of us really enjoy this setup, so it can be just as fun as playing the games. Depending on how into the hobby you are, you might have a lot of fun setting up these devices. There is an abundant amount of resources online, and there is a bunch of content creators that have set up some really good guides to get those devices going. The RG40XXV has an You know what? This is a handheld. The RG40XXV has a fully laminated 4-inch IPS display with a resolution of 640 by 480.
The face and D-pad buttons have a longer travel, but are still pretty quiet. The D-pad does have a rubber membrane feel, reminiscent of a lot of retro controllers. The joystick does have some cardinal snapping, but I didn't notice it until I started playing N64 games. Retro games really wasn't that noticeable, plus you're using the D-pad for a lot of those games. Anbernic does have a single front firing speaker, and it is a little bit tinny. And depending on how you hold it, your palm can block that speaker, making the audio a little bit muffled. Now, the back of the device and the back bumpers are a little bit louder because the body is a little bit hollow, so you get a little bit of a different experience than you do from the Ayaneo. Battery wise, this one does have a 3200 milliamp hour battery. The Anbernic website says that it's about 6 hours, but honestly, depending on the games, older games will run about 10 hours, newer games closer to 3 to 4. So depending on what you're playing, the battery will last drastically different times. The Ayaneo does cost about 4 to 5 times as much as the Anbernic, but with the parts that they chose, it definitely shows. The screen is an OLED 3.92-inch display, and it looks great. The buttons feel fantastic. Now, they do have a shorter travel, so it does take some time to get used to that, but once you do, they feel fantastic. They went with a Hall effect joystick, and it doesn't have any of the cardinal snapping. They did add a second joystick, which is that track pack that we were talking about earlier. The Anbernic does have that one front firing speaker, where the Ayaneo has 2 side firing speakers, and they sound great. It does create that stereo effect. Now, on the buttons in the back, it does have a more solid body, so it doesn't have that hollow sound, so the buttons are a lot quieter. The Ayaneo does have a bigger battery than the Anbernic. It's about 6,000 milliamps. Now, you are playing higher end games with this device, so it does take more power to get those going. If you're playing something like the Switch, you're gonna get about 2 to 3 hours, where something like the GameCube or Game Boy Advance, you're gonna be running closer to 6. The Anbernic, like I said before, can run up to 10 hours. This one doesn't reach those heights. Both devices are fairly comfortable to hold, and there's honestly just a few small differences between them that really change the experience one way or another. For example, the joystick on the 40XXV it's slightly more to the center, so the transition from the D-pad to the joystick is a little bit easier. It also does have the select and start buttons towards the middle. The overall feel of where everything is positioned, it's easy to play and everything is accessible. On the Ayaneo, everything is placed in a similar spot except for that joystick. It's slightly to the left to accommodate for that trackpad, and the start and select buttons are on the bottom right. It is a little bit more awkward to transition to those buttons, and your hands do feel a little bit cramped when you're trying to reach for them, especially when playing any of the joystick games. The volume wheel feels so good, it's really nice and tactile, and it gives it such a retro feeling in general. It's really a minor detail, but it really made it such a cool experience and made it more of a retro feeling device than the 40XXV. Where the f am I?
I honestly think that the differences between the devices are pretty small in the grand scheme of things. The Ayaneo is clearly a higher quality device. It has a fantastic screen, some great buttons, it's the perfect overall size, and it's a comfortable device. For me, it has some pretty major wins. One of those wins is that volume wheel. It's such a nostalgic and tactile feeling that it really pushed it over the edge. But does that justify the price? The 40XXV has a better price to performance, and it boasts the same comfort, minus the fingerprint magnet, and it's pretty bad on the Ayaneo. And as previously mentioned, the Anbernic has a Linux system, which is super easy to set up. So, which one's the winner? Which one should we choose? And the answer is really, it depends. I know it's not the most satisfying answer, but let me at least walk you through my reasoning behind it. If you're just getting into the hobby and you want a solid first emulator with a great price point and easy to set up, the 40XXV is a solid choice. My suggestion is to really explore those operating systems like MuOS and Newly to really elevate the device. If you're already into the hobby and have the resources to spend $400+ on a device, the Ayaneo Pocket DMG is honestly a fantastic choice. I've been playing that device daily. It's got a beautiful screen, great feeling buttons with some time to get used to them because of that short travel. It has fast charging capabilities, which you can use the same charger that you use with most phones and keep it charged conveniently. It did take about 2 to 3 hours for me to set it up, and up to this day I'm still tweaking a lot of those emulators to get them just right. And I know that it can be frustrating, but if you enjoy the setup, it's really worth that time, and it's really a great device to play. So for myself, I chose the Ayaneo Pocket DMG. It's small and portable enough that it lives in my backpack. I've been playing it on a daily basis, and I haven't really been pushing it to its full potential. I've been playing games like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, PS2, GameCube, and a lot of games that I haven't touched in a while. But it's been such a good overall device that I really enjoyed it. Both devices are super solid, even in this oversaturated market, even with the amount of devices that are coming out with what feels like every other week. So what device would you choose? Would you choose either one of them? Or would you choose neither? Would you maybe go with a horizontal device? Sound off in the comments and let me know your thoughts. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for exploring these two devices with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace, humans.